Hi everyone, welcome to the session Mastering the Product Design Interview. I'm Aditra Ghosh, currently a product manager. I have about 5 years of experience in the software industry and an MBA from NYU Stern. Let's get started. First, intros. So the product design is one of the most common questions in PM interviews, and here I assume that you have some kind of background about these questions, and some common frameworks used are circles, and this is from Lewis Lynn, and one of the others is Pursuit. One of the variations of this question is improve the product, or the other one is design a product for a certain group or for a certain purpose. These are generally the two variations. Also interesting is what's your favorite product and improve it. So I would assume that all the three are part of this discussion. And let's go. So I'm going for this is going to be a little bit advanced. So I would assume that you have some background into these frameworks. You have kind of tried this and have had some mock interviews. I'm going to give some tips on how you can further improve it and some things to differentiate yourself from a good and a great candidate. And the first step in this is understanding the problem, which includes asking thoughtful clarifications. So the important word here is thoughtful. There are a lot of questions that you could ask, but make sure that the questions you ask are relevant and to understand and also narrow the scope of the problem. That's the purpose of understanding the question. And some of the good starting points that I have seen are asking about how long it's going to take and how many resources do have, what's our role in the space and why do we want to solve it. These are good things to start off, but there could be some things more domain specific about the question itself. The second thing that's going to tremendously help is stating your assumptions clearly ahead. Sometimes in the process of going through this, you realize like 5 minutes in the interview that you assume something. It's still okay to state that, but if it's possible, always state your assumptions ahead. This includes your goal. The second tip that I would like to give is make sure as much as possible that you lead the interview rather than the interviewer. You propose something and then ask the interviewer if they're okay rather than asking a bunch of questions to the interviewer. And the next one is the goal, and the goal depends on the constraints again given in the problem, whether we want to grow, whether we want to acquire users, etc. And generally have found it as one of these, like you should not specify, write it like just something as like acquisition, but be more specific and try to be more like sometimes even be more grand than just saying like activation or acquisition. And always make sure to check with the interviewer before you get started on the goal, and make sure that if you discuss metrics as part of this interview, that they follow from the goal that you stated ahead of time. And the next one is relevant user segmentation. The most important word here is relevant. The first kind of tip I have is avoiding demographics if possible. This is something natural to all of us, but as much as possible, unless it's relevant to the problem, I would suggest avoiding demographics. It's not possible sometimes, but it's better not to use this. And this is again going to differentiate the good from the great. The second tip I have is starting from the use cases and not from the people. The general notion for most people is we try to think of people and then we try to fit it to the problem. Rather, think of the use cases and how different people use the same product in different ways. And the third one is, of course, specific user segments are much better than vague user segments. This helps in understanding the problem and also solving it better. A few overlooked segments that I found is elderly people, sometimes children, and also the supply side and marketplace like drivers in Uber or hosts in Airbnb. And the next one is specific use cases. So pain points or use cases represent the same thing. A good way to come up with some use cases, thinking about the user journey. One thing I found useful is pre, during, and post, and trying to understand the pain points during that. And here, try to be as specific as possible. And one important thing is ensuring that the use case is relevant to the user segment. Do not choose use cases which apply across different user segments. Make sure that they're relevant. The next one is the solution. Yeah, this is where the most of the creativity is a part of this process. This is where you got to be creative. There are no templates. I've seen a couple of kind of ideas around this. Few things that I have found, themes that I found useful are artificial intelligence or machine learning, Internet of Things, robots, AR, VR. So whenever you're thinking of something, try to see if you can include. But again, this is not an exhaustive list. And the ideal case is you have three mutually exclusive solutions. Of course, it's not always possible, but this is the ideal case. And the third thing I would suggest is go broad, then go deep, which is choose, like, first give an idea of these three solutions and go deep into each of them. And also avoid reusing commonly used existing solutions. That's Uber for X, Airbnb for Y, and like very similar, where the interviewer can kind of grasp, but you're just kind of taking an idea and applying it to a different space. And another one is always try for a moonshot idea, something that's not possible, but it's just helpful to differentiate yourself. The next one is to prioritize one of these solutions. You can use any of the frameworks. Make sure to mention this to the interviewer ahead of time. And impact and effort, rise, feasibility, viability, desirability is another one. And make sure once you prioritize one of them, expand on the chosen solution and how it's going to flow to the customer. That's completely paint a picture how the customer is going to use this product, and also discuss the risks and trade-offs of the different approaches that you went through. Some final thoughts. This is my take. Discuss metrics only if you have additional time. Most of the times, I have found that metrics are very similar and do not add value, but it depends on the specific interview. So make sure that you address them if it's required. Make sure to address how the solutions achieves again the specified goal. Make sure to address how the metrics satisfy the goal. And the most important one, do not sound scripted. Takes breaks and gauge from the interviewer what to focus on next. And of course, as cliche as it sounds, practice makes you better. Make sure to practice with the right people and focus on what's not going well and ensure to double down on what's going well. Uh, Thank you so much for listening. Hope you found this useful. Let me know if you have any feedback.